Hey, it's Steve. Real quick before we begin, the single biggest thing I've learned about succeeding as an ADHD entrepreneur is that everything boils down to mastering your weeks. So if ADHD is making business harder than it needs to be, I've got something that can help. Grab my free weekly ADHD dashboard. It's a free, simple, but powerful tool to help you stay focused, organized, and in control of your week. The link is in the description below. Hey there, Steve August back with another episode of ADHD Entrepreneur Accelerator. And today I have been doing a lot of thinking about productivity, and it's all around us, isn't it? All the productivity apps and the productivity tips and the productivity systems and the YouTube videos about how we can be more productive, and the 2-minute, 1-minute, 30-second TikTok about productivity. And there's productivity porn and productivity systems and apps, and just there's a whole billion-dollar industry around productivity. And I have gotten to the point where it really is starting to bother me, this emphasis on productivity, because productivity is about like getting stuff done, right? How productive are you? How much do you produce, right? Can you get a lot of stuff done? And that's all good, right? We want to be able to get stuff done. We have things to do, our to-do lists, our tasks, what have you. But the thing that keeps hitting me in the face over time, especially as an ADHD entrepreneur, is productivity is important, but it's really important about what you think it's in service of, right? What we really want, we don't really want to be more productive per se. That's just a means to the end, right? We want to make progress. Progress is defined as moving in a direction towards something, right? And that is a huge and important distinction. Productivity is like being efficient and getting stuff done. Progress is about getting to where you want to go. And all these productivity systems, I think, do a disservice to progress. And especially for ADHD brains, right? Because ADHD brains, one, it's challenging for us sometimes to figure out, where we want to go, but then what are the steps to get there? And then it's also challenging for us sometimes to be productive. Sometimes it's a cascade of that. Like we're unsure exactly of where we want to go because there's so many options, which makes it hard to pick out what we really want to do or what's important now. And then it can put us into fight, flight, or freeze, just trying to figure that stuff out. And then what happens is we tend to be really reactive. We react to stuff that we're super interested in, shiny objects like a new productivity tool or urgent deadline, where it's like, okay, it's time to get in motion because we are going to suffer some consequences. And I have been really thinking about this as I've been taking people through my recent focus formula cohort and seeing them go from that productivity mindset, which is kind of, in a weird way, kind of reactive. Like I've got stuff that's been put on my plate. Some of it I've chosen to put on my plate. Some of it I am getting just because life gives you stuff to get done. And what's being lost is that sense of progress, that sense of where are we going? And so I just want to talk a few minutes about progress versus productivity. It is, how do you, as an ADHD brain, get into the progress mindset? Because the progress mindset is a proactive mindset. It's like, I don't care, like, I want to be productive, but if I'm super productive in response to lots of things that I'm reacting to, reactive things that aren't actually getting me further down the road towards where I want to go, then all that energy and all that productivity isn't really getting me anywhere. It's like splashing in the water and not taking a smooth stroke to where you want to go. So how do we flip this, right? How do we get out of this kind of productivity mindset, which I'm not saying is bad on its face. It's just, it needs to be in service of your progress. And if productivity is just there to be getting more stuff done and not getting you to where you want to go, then it's, that's a lot of energy that we're expending for progress that isn't what we want or isn't what we want to be. So how do we make sure our productivity is actually creating progress? So here are 3 things that I would invite you to lean into. One is, as Yogi Berra said, if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there, right? You absolutely have to have a sense of where you're going. And I call that in my programs the magnetic north. And the magnetic north consists of an impact you want to make on the world, on yourself, on your family, on the people around you, and also how you want your life to look, right? Because with those two things, we can actually say, okay, here's what I want to make happen in the world, but here's the way I want to make it happen, And this is because I want my life to look like this. I want it to have so much abundance in it, and I want so much freedom and time. And so with those two things, we can actually start saying, okay, that's where we're headed to. What do we need to do to get to the next place, the next stop on that? So that's huge. Like without that, our productivity will never give us progress, because progress always needs something to be going towards. It's a direction towards something, a place where we want to go, versus productivity being just what we want to do or just what we need to do on our task list and how efficient we do it. The second thing is, once we have a magnetic north, a place we're going, is we need a way to evaluate out of all the choices that we have, the options we have to get there. We need to be able to decide which ones we're going to work on now. And that's really tricky for an ADHD brain, because ADHD brains tend to put everything in the now. Our sense of time is very interesting. It's either now or not now. And so we need a way to pretty much sequence that, right? So we have a direction, we know where we're going, and we need a way to sequence it. And so I call it the Great Wall of everything now. Everything feels equally urgent, equally important. So the best thing we can do is narrow the time frame that we're considering. And so that's why I use a weekly cadence, because weeks are easier to get our heads around. But we need to have that sense of like, okay, I'm not talking about 6 months down the road, because I have no idea what's going to be going on 6 months down the road. I need to know, break down, okay, if I'm going to get to magnetic north and where we're going, I need to figure out, work my way back to what needs to be happening this week. And out of all the projects that I could do to get me there, I need to pick one that's going to fit into this coming week, or make progress on one that's going to fit into this coming week. So second thing is like narrowing the time frame and being very, very conscious of the time frame. Okay, so we have a magnetic north, we have a time frame. And then 3, how do we pick, right? We have a time frame. We know we can't do everything. And this is where sometimes we have enough information to pick and say, oh, that's quite obvious. I should do this thing here. This is going to get me the furthest. And other times it's not that obvious, because we might be earlier in the process, especially when we're in the early stage of a new business, or we're in the early stage of a new initiative or a new marketing program or whatever. If we're in the first stages where we haven't done it before, then we have to have a different little mindset and how we set our markers to where we're going. And there could be lots of different choices. And the challenge is we don't know which one's going to be the best choice at this point, because we haven't had enough reps. And so the third thing is really about understanding that choosing something and sticking with it for a determined amount of time so that it has the chance to work or not work. And usually it takes 2 to 3 iterations on something to figure out if it's going to work. It's very rare that you do something and boom, it just explodes. When that happens, we take it, certainly, but it's fairly rare. And so the third thing is about choosing. And this is the interesting mind flip, the judo flip here, because it can be like, how do I get to make the right choice? And the thing is, we don't know what the right choice is going to be until later. We don't get that information in advance. So what we got to do is make the best choice we can with the information we have. And sometimes it's just a gut feeling. We make the best choice and we just come at it from the angle. That's really important. The angle of, because I chose it, it was the right choice. Because if we don't, we're going to keep renegotiating that choice. We're going to keep redeciding. And that's where our energy and our focus goes poof. So we have to say, I chose it. It was the right choice because I chose it, because essentially making the decision, any decision to move forward at that point is more important than getting the exact right decision, because of course we don't know what the right decision is yet until we get through it. But the only way to get through it is to actually do the work and get through it and give it in a certain amount of time. So when we decide something, whether it's a new initiative, a new plan, a new marketing program, whatever it happens to be, we have to go into a sense of like, okay, we're going to try this and we're going to go all into this and we're going to give ourselves permission. This is really important, permission to ignore other things, because with our ADHD brains, there are going to be a million shiny objects, and there are really good marketers out there, and there are really interesting tools out there, and they're all going to be really good at grabbing and going for our attention. And we have to say, okay, I give myself permission to not do that and do my reps with this particular way of approaching it and see if it works. Because if it doesn't have time to work, then we actually aren't learning what we need to learn. And the reality is we're probably just going to repeat that pattern with a new shiny thing. And that's how we start going in all directions, and where we don't even feel productive because we're kind of restarting all the time and redeciding all the time, and we don't feel like we're making progress. At the end of the day, and especially at the end of the week, like the best feeling in the world is looking back on the week and saying, I made progress. Right. And progress isn't always like beautiful, isn't always like I made 50 sales this week, or, I closed this big deal. Progress is like I actually moved the thing that I set my mind to do, that I proactively said, this is the thing that's going to get me to my magnetic north. And I actually moved that ball forward towards that goal. And at the end of the week, if you've done that, then you're going to feel really good about your progress. And sometimes it'll be messy, and sometimes it'll feel slow. A lot of times it'll feel slow because ADHD brains think as soon as we think it should be done. What's the deal? But the progress over time and that consistency is what's going to really create that momentum and that progress. And so that is my rant on productivity versus progress. Progress is everything. Productivity is just a way to get things done, in my book. And so it's great to get it done more efficiently. It's great to get it done more organized, but progress is what we're really after. If your productivity isn't in service of your progress, we need to rethink it. So that's it for today's ADHD Entrepreneur Accelerator. If you found this thinking to be helpful, boy, would I appreciate you giving this podcast or this episode a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. Or if you're tuning in on YouTube, give me the old like and subscribe. Helps me get the message out to more and more people, help more ADHD entrepreneurs. Really appreciate it. Appreciate you for listening. We'll see you again real soon.